The company at the Hard Justice pay-per-view in Orlando introduced the new booking team as head booker Scott D'Amore and assistants Mike Tenay, Dutch Mantel, Bill Banks, and Jeremy Borash.
Dutch got his way in.
Yeah, well, like he should be a voice in the room.
Listen, I'm just saying he got his way in after them saying that they didn't think Dutch was going to be part of it.
Terry Taylor is not on the booking team, but it is believed he will have input because he's tight with D'Amore. The pay-per-view show and first set of TVs were written before Tenay and Mantell were added to the committee, although Tenay had considerable influence on late changes to both shows. The group worked together all weekend and laid out a general direction for the company for the next 3 months. As noted before, TNA's big problems are a lack of visibility, which in turn leads to an inability to create stars even with talented workers. They are also limited to stars with prior exposure on top, who the public believes are the real deal. Booking has had its issues during most of the company's 3-year tenure, but booking is far from the only problem. It appears with the booking change there will be a lot of turns, tag teams, teasing, being split up, and new additions to the roster, as well as people being eliminated.
Oh my
who
god,
aren't
Russo's back!
But it's the classic thing. It's like when Triple H took over, it's just like, you're a face now, you're a heel now, tag team. It's like that kind of like reshuffle the board the way I want it kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of the signs, it's like, oh, finger on the pulse, at least these people are looking at the right thing. The new booking team is interested in getting Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, and CM Punk.
Oh my god, I did take over.
Joe is a probable because definite ideas have been discussed for him.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah, never. Punk's off the table. He signs with WWE the month after.
And also, bad relationship.
Yeah, they went south there with the old CM Punk. Danielson's an interesting one in that he never, ever, ever worked TNA. Even in the early days, like the Briscoes worked TNA in the early days, but Danielson didn't.
Chris Hero did Explosions.
Yeah, literally everybody else came through the doors at one stage or another of TNA. And Bryan Danielson didn't.
But there was discussions about it. We saw that in like the second year. His name got bandied about.
And his name is getting bandied about here. And you'd have to think, as a guy trained by Shawn Michaels and extremely tight with William Regal, WWE had to have been his endgame all along, right?
Well, he was essentially signed as like a developmental guy before that was a thing, right? Like when he went to Shawn's thing, that was like essentially what would become a developmental contract. Him and Spanky had that, I think.
And it took him another like 7-8 years to finally get there.
Also, another booking note from Liam. I would have signed Paul London.
He worked for the WWE?
At the start.
Oh, right, when he was like 5.
Yeah, when I get my 33 million.
When he was the same age as you in 2002.
Oh, I'm bringing him in. Him and AJ. My top 2 future babyface stars.
Your aces?
No, Sting's my ace, come on.
And then Paul London beat Sting?
It'd probably be Raven beating Sting. Sting holds the title all the way through.
Let's see if he can get Sting, by the way.
I'm getting him. Okay, I have 33 million and he's the 1 star I need. I'm not giving Jarrett like insane money. I'm not giving Hole insane money. It's all going to Sting.
You back up like 5 of your 33 million to...
Yeah, like whatever it takes.
Sting! So yeah.
Like we talked about it when he would show up at the Asylum shows. When Sting was there, it was a different energy.
It's not like, as we talked about constantly, it's like every time it's like when they wanted a pay-per-view main event, it's always Sting they wanted. It's not a case of them not wanting Sting, it's of Sting being like, no thank you.
They had already spent their capital. I have mine at the start.
But you wouldn't have Jerry. The only reason Sting did TNA was because he felt he owed the favor to Jerry.
Who says I wouldn't have brought Jerry on the booking committee?
Just to get Sting?
Yeah.
So yeah, they want Joe, Danielson, and Punk, but they get Joe. Spoiler.
What the hell?
Gail Kim was backstage at the TNA tapings. The plan is to use her, Jazz, and Molly Holly. We'll have to change her name after her non-compete. If the TV show goes to 2 hours, not every week, but as semi-regulars. So keep that in mind with Gail Kim in particular.
The Knockouts.
The beginning of the Knockouts division with Gail in particular, and Jazz in like 2021.
Yeah, the real women's revolution.
There was a bunch of issues about whether or not TNA would allow the ECW wrestlers to appear on One Night Stand. Dixie ultimately said no because it wasn't in the best interests of her company to make that happen, which I kind of get. You want to protect the value of your talent, but also like if you have Raven in a prominent role
and you desperately need exposure.
Yeah, if you put Raven in a prominent role on that ECW show, it's probably good for you. But then there's always like the will they poach him and then that kind of shite.
Well, again, if it's me, which apparently it is, it's like you get them on those shows, but with like heavy creative influence.
Vince is never giving that to you.
Well, then they're not going on the show, but I don't look like a coward.
Okay.
Like, I come out of it looking better because I was willing to do it, like, especially with my talent.
Oh, your talent as a booker.
No, my talent as in my pro wrestlers that I own.
Rhodes did an interview the day after quitting as booker and said, well, quitting, he was replaced. He did the classic, you can't fire me, I quit.
Well, yeah, because in the first story, it was he resigned on that day, and it's like, no, you were kicked out.
Yeah, you resigned after you went into the room and realized you were being replaced. To tell you the truth, I don't have a lot of time to deal with something I don't really believe in.
Who said this?
The American Dream's Dusty Rhodes.
No, I said this. I said that I felt he didn't believe in it.
He got molten heat from some people in TNA for that line. I'm not going to battle with a committee of people that don't have the same vision that I do. It's not me being a dictator. That's not it. I use people's ideas. But at the end, it's my movie. It's going to be my movie, and nobody else is going to direct it. I'm not going to sit here in this committee, collect my paycheck daddy, and keep my mouth shut. I'm too old for that.
Wow, Caleb, we got a quote directly from Tony Khan for the site.
He was also negative about TNA running house shows.
Yeah, well, that's not great.
And the word is that if he does not carry on as a TV character, that Larry Zbyszko would likely replace him in the authority figure role.
Larry Z.
So that is like the messy power struggle. In that Dusty's out, Scott D'Amore is booker, with a booking team that does not involve Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett, ousted as champion, looking to buy out the company, probably in a little bit of a tenuous relationship with Dixie Carter at the moment. And everyone's sniping, but ultimately D'Amore's got the book and D'Amore wants to bring in good wrestlers.
This is why I've always been positive about Scott D'Amore. Never had a bad word.
It is, like, when it's like the first thing coming out, and maybe it is a little bit, let's leak, we want the good wrestlers, so people out on the internet are like, oh, they want the good wrestlers, maybe this will be the one. But when you are like, we want Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, and CM Punk out of the 2005 wrestling scene, it's like, alright, they're picking the right names.
Which was always our problem, like, early on, was like, it felt like they were going the wrong direction.
And especially, like, as we mentioned, under Dusty, it's like less and less of the good wrestlers were showing up on the show.
Yeah.
And a lot of his son.
Well, we don't have to worry about that for a bit.